coming up on the
Make it
Source.
juicy. We're going to make it juicy because at the end of the day, the people have a right to know who they're voting for.
I don't want any police officers, former, retired, to have voting rights.
Put it before them, and let's make sure we stay honest. And what is their response?
Yeah.
And if there's no response, we're going to report that as well.
That if they deem it necessary, they can use that type of force, restrictive force of an airway.
That's your representative.
So Frank, this is on you. Nnamdi, this is on you.
But to hear this now, it angers me. Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Tanae Darby.
And welcome to The Source. As we've been doing for the last 2 weeks, there's just been so much going on in and around our city and country that we've been trying to report on. But one thing that stays consistent is the gun violence in America and in our communities. Just this week, or should I say last week, Rashad Faison, 15-year-old, was gunshot, and he died of a gunshot wound on Friday in Hampton Green in Newcastle, as well as at Massachusetts State University. Was a shooting and 3 died there. But I want to just start with, this little 15-year-old brother, the little child who just, he was shot dead, and they still don't have no real suspects.
Yeah, so it happened on Dean Street out in Newcastle, Hampton Green area. But again, this is something that has been happening all across the county, all across the state. And we're seeing, again, as the new year comes in, it's still winter time, the numbers are starting to pick up again. So we're grateful that we haven't seen it in the city boundaries, but in surrounding areas, the numbers are picking up.
Yeah. So I just hope that we'll be able to start curbing it. But it's a whole issue with what are we going to do with this gun violence, period. The gun control in our country is out of control. Could you help me to understand with the state, what our current law on gun? I know it's an open carry state, but what about on assault weapons? That's where we need to really focus in on. How do you know anything about our laws in that area?
So there has been pushes here for the last 5 to 7 years to ban assault weapons here. And it has stalled out each time. There's also been an effort and a push for permit to purchasing. So you would get a permit to purchase a gun, right? Which means you have to go through various background checks and classes to make sure that you know how to handle a firearm and safely keep a firearm. That has also stalled out.
Wow.
So it's a back and forth that I'm seeing is gaining more traction, right? With every incident, it's sad that they have to wait for yet another mass shooting to happen. Even though, we know every single day we deal with it in our community, right? But every step forward is a good step, but it's going to be a while.
Yeah, I don't know. Were you going to say something?
No.
Well, when it goes to the university level, now we saw what had happened in the church, and then it happened in the elementary school. Then it's been happening on the streets, the high school. Now it's at the university level at Michigan State University, which is one of the premier research institutions in the country. It's just getting to a place where we're not safe anywhere. When will the Republicans be able to say, I'm not going to be afraid of the NRA? When will that happen?
Yeah, so just the Michigan State University shooting. Just a little background on that. It was 5 people injured, 3 were killed.
Hmm.
Um, there was a video that's circulating of a girl who was in lockdown,
Yeah.
Jackie. She is a survivor of the Newtown shooting,
Hmm.
the Sandy Hook shooting. Um, it's sad that she's now experienced this twice in her
Wow.
life. It's sad that we see this time and time again. And because of social media, we see kids on social media running for their lives, showing what's
Yeah.
happening, showing videos of them looking out their dorm window while they're on the ground, seeing a body covered in a blanket,
Mm.
right? So this is the reality that a lot of kids are facing now. It's almost second nature to kids because they do so many school shooting lockdown drills now. And I think it's, it's a requirement. The government has made it a requirement for schools to do that.
Wow.
It's sad instead of addressing the actual issue.
Thank you. You took that words right out of my mouth. Instead of addressing the gun issue, they require it, and now we train and desensitize our children to being able to handle when an active shooter is available.
Hmm.
Unacceptable. Unacceptable. And that's all I can say. I just hope and trust that the state of Delaware at some point, given that we are an open, carry state, that we start addressing it. Because sometimes when you can't get it on the federal level, when you start dealing with this stuff on a local level, that we deal with.
But, again, we're going to continue to see this. And you look at what we just saw in Buffalo
Mhm.
in the grocery store. The gunman went in there, had the N word written on the barrel of his gun.
Yeah.
He saw a white woman and a white man and said, "No, you're good,"
Yeah.
and then killed a bunch of black people. He was sentenced the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I know the video went viral because the guy lunged at him,
Right.
right? But listen to the words of the young lady who was speaking. She said, "You came to our community and decided you hated black people for the sole purpose of the color of our skin.
Hmm.
But you know nothing about us.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, we're human too." And that just echoed in my head watching that video.
Yeah.
Because time and time again, this hatred that we're seeing paired with firearms lead to unnecessary death in our community
Mhm.
time and time again.
Yeah.
And I'm just sick of it. And I'm sure other people are, but some of these politicians, they decide they're going to listen to the NRA and all these other here in Delaware, we don't really have the NRA. We have the sports club, Delaware Sportsman's Club, which is
Same.
NRA light, who fights against this. And they have a high power attorney, the same attorney who represents the landlord association. He pretty much will represent anyone who is willing to commit active violences or discriminate against low income people. He's a horrible lobbyist. But that's what we're dealing with here in Delaware. And that's why it's so important for us to get engaged and get involved with this fight.
Yeah, I told somebody else when I saw the gentleman lunge at the after the deplorable person who killed all those black people. I said I felt his emotions
Hmm.
because it's like you just want to grab the person, but out of ignorance, this person killed all these people. And
Hmm.
it's just a sad day in our community that we constantly have to do this and constantly have to live through this. And when that young lady posted her video that she had lived through another one, it's just like, when will we stop? When will our politicians wake up and realize that this is a free country, but your rights end when they begin to infringe on the rights of others? I don't know. But I just wanted to move on from that and just move to one last thing before we go to a commercial break today. And that is, I want to just talk to those of you who watch us every week. First, thank you. Thank you for calling. Thank you for texting. All of us are receiving your communications, whether you're talking to Kobe, whether you're talking to Shanae, or you're talking to me. Listen, we're getting it. You're watching. We want to be credible. And we want to make sure that we are credible in what we report to you. Sometimes our emotions get the best of us, but the reality of it is the facts are the facts, and we stick with the facts. So we reported a couple of things, but one of the things we're going to say to you today, no longer will we permit or accept disregard and disrespect from elected officials. Today is the last time we're going to allow people, whether we like them or we have issues with their policies, we're not going to let it. So when we report on something, we're now going to bring it back to you and say, this is what their response was. There are people who will not answer their phones now. There are people who will not give us a response. I'm going to come back and I'm going to say, we called this person. They have not returned our call because they don't respect you as a voter. We have to be serious about this. And one of the things that I was thinking about is this city council appointment of all three of these last three appointments they made of city council men. Unbelievable. Do you know how many calls I received this week saying people didn't even know the process went down like that. So yes, we've taken some steps. You're going to hear about it. And we are demanding that it's not a blanket fix, but it's a systematic fix. One step at a time. And you're going to know the whole process. If the Attorney General does not respond to the letter that was sent, we're going to let you know. And we might even have to go and knock on her door with the cameras rolling. So you'll see how serious we are. We are not black, poor, incompetent infidels. We are people who matter. And we come every week so that we can report to you what's going on in your community. The mayor is not God. I don't have a personal issue with him. My issues are all dealing with how he handles the public. He's voted to do the right thing. So is the city council. And when I heard one of the city council persons share that she's being somewhat like bullied, she can't be controlled. So since she can't be controlled, then all of a sudden you got people who are black like she is, who are just coming up against her. We're going to start reporting that stuff. You want to make it juicy? We're going to make it juicy because at the end of the day, the people have a right to know who they're voting for. And I'm going to ask you one favor. When you see and hear us making a report, please challenge it, but don't stick on the side of wrong. If a friend is wrong, be person enough to say you're wrong and let's get it right. That's the only way we can fix our community. Let me also talk about the state representative who keep voting to harm the poor and the middle class. This whole notion of the workforce agreement and voting against it, eminent domain, and voting against it, and still getting elected. They know what they're doing. They know who they can control. We have to stop it because you knew somebody as a kid, because they gave you a good poem. You then support them. No, if you're harming my people, we have to part ways. And lastly, I'm going to be doing some reporting on the state representative who continues to hold and cover bills that allow these dirty police policies to harm our community. I am friends with everyone, but my job is to speak to power. And if it offends you, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stop. We're here to give a service. Not a one of us at this table get paid a dime to do the stuff that we do as it relates to reporting on this show. But I'm glad to see so many people have called this week. So many people have been talking about that last show that I'm going to make sure we keep the credibility and that we keep ourselves moving forward. So to all both of you, thank you on behalf of the source for what you do. It matters. We're going to continue to do what we got to do. Is there any comments you have on anything I just shared before I go to the commercial break?
No.
No, you said what needed to be
Yeah.
said.
Okay.
It was.
Well, I'll stop there, and we're gonna come back with Shanae's on the street. I forgot what we call that segment, but we're gonna come back to that, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Well, let's see what's going on with Shanae Scope this week.
Yeah, so one of the first things I want to talk about is our Citizens Complaint Review Board. So back in November of 2020, our previous council, they voted to have a Citizens Complaint Review Board, which will look at police misconduct and find ways to come up with recommendations and hold the bad apples accountable for what is happening in regards to police violence with the community. Well, back in 2020, Mayor Mike Purzycki did not, he didn't even sign off on the legislation. He allowed it to go through his process to become law without his signature.
Mm.
So we know that he was not in support of it in 2020. However, since I've been on council for 2 budgets, the mayor administration did allocate $50,000 towards a civilian review board. And one of the things that we did do, we reached out to a company called Nicole, the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement.
Mhm.
So they came and did an assessment to say, this is how your civilian review board should be set up, and this is how you start it, right? So they're going to give us that technical assistance to do that. However, our current problem for the last few months is that the mayor administration will not appoint their person, right? And if we don't have their appointmentship, then we cannot start the civilian
Look at
oversight
the
review
games they
board,
play.
right? And that's why I was so frustrated when the press conference happened with IMAC,
Mm.
that they even allowed Mayor Mike Purzycki to speak, and he has been the biggest barrier. It has a history of not supporting police reform, but then we give him a platform to speak on Black issues.
And to say what he said.
And for him to say what he said was very disrespectful. So for me, some things did change, and we're submitting a new legislation for the makeup of the civilian review board. And the mayor administration is saying he is not going to support it at all. So I'm wondering if we're going to find a way now to kind of maybe take his appointmentship out or put in a clause.
Is the litigation, not litigation, but the legislation, is it says that he has to have an appointment on that?
He has to have an appointment. So
Okay.
the original legislation stated that his appointmentship would be for the chair
Mhm.
of the actual review board, and that chair could potentially be a law enforcement, of someone attached to law
Okay.
enforcement. So I had a problem with that.
Right.
Because I was like, he could potentially put a retired cop there to be the chair of a civilian oversight review board. Made no sense to me, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So once Nicole came, they changed that and said, no, the chair should be voted on by everyone
Who's
on the
Nicole?
committee. Nicole is the National Association for Civilian Oversight. They did
Okay.
the
That's what it
assessment.
should be following.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, they did the assessment with
Okay.
us. So
All right.
Nicole, they did the assessment. They recommended that he can have an appointmentship, but it can't be a law enforcement officer, and they won't be the chair.
Absolutely.
So they changed
Okay.
it. They took city council people off, which I agree with. It shouldn't be government officials on it,
Okay.
right? So I agreed with that. And one thing I was like, I don't want any police officers, former, retired, to have voting rights if we're going to put them on there. So we put them on there, but as an advisory role, so they don't have voting rights. That was like the compromise. I don't want them there at all.
Yeah.
But I'm like, at least they don't have voting rights, but they could provide probably some insight if need be. So we're sending in recommendations now. If you're a former or retired police officer or in some form related in the law enforcement, you're able to send a resume to city council, and we could potentially appoint you to those two advisory roles. But the mayor administration is not in support of it. So I'm wondering now, what can we do? Maybe put a
I tell you, I'm not a political person,
Right.
but I know how structure works.
Right.
Well, could you go to your legal people and put in a clause, as you said, into amendment to the legislation to remove his appointment?
Yes, either remove it or say, so I think it's like 7 people now,
Uh-huh.
I think, or maybe 9. It went down to 7, I think 7. So there's 7, just say at least as long as we have 5 appointed,
Yeah.
we can start.
All right, that's a good compromise. All right, all right, all right. So if you do that, then you go ahead and do the amendment, and then come back and let's see which of the city council, because he has his own voters. Let's see who denies it,
Yeah.
so we can tell the public who do not want to see this continue on. See, what I'm learning after having my interaction with the Attorney General's office is that I'm learning that the reason why a lot of times things are not getting done is because we're sitting back wondering why or how can we get it done, and we do too much committee work. It's time to start pushing it.
do it.
So I think you should go right. The legal people got to report to you too. You go right to your legal people, say, I need a piece of legislation formed, or to your chief of staff. I don't know how they do it in the city council stuff. And you tell them, I need this for the next committee. And then tell Mr. Trippy, whoever takes care of the agenda, put this on there. Let's see who votes for it. Because they all connected. And this is his way. For him not to sign it
Yep.
is a problem.
Yep.
And then not even have a person on there, or we'll just hold it up. He's doing this strategically.
Yep.
So be smarter than him. You African people are that way. You're very much smarter. We learned how to take a chicken and feed a whole week of food. So
Right.
so so please, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I just want to make sure that you please put it in yourself.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm
Yeah.
I'm working on that because I'm thinking we have to get this done. So, but my next piece is I had shared on the last show about some things that I was experiencing in regards to being appointed as the chair for the intergovernmental committee. So, over the last week, I have received calls stating that the person who has been appointed the chair, that she's willing to step down and let me have the chair position for that committee. And for me, like, of course, I want the chair role. It was a committee, the Intergovernmental Committee was my idea, something that I wanted to do on council that I researched. I looked at other councils throughout the country, and I want to do it. But then it's to me, it's like, why did you go through all of that to say I'm stepping down now to give you that role, right?
That's how bullies work, though. Bullies.
Yeah, so for me, it kind of, I don't know. Of course, I'm gonna take it, but I'm gonna see what comes with it,
Yeah.
and then make a
But my,
decision
my
from there.
suggestion to you, and this is and to every one of you, whenever the Lord opens up a door, go in it.
Right,
And if by some chance things act crazy, then you can always resign and share why. Share your protest. The
right,
people want to hear what's going on.
right.
So and exposure. Don't be afraid to share names.
Yeah,
Because when people start acting crazy, share the name. I don't have a problem with it.
right, right. No, I thought I had shared the name,
You
but
did.
I did.
You
Okay, I
did.
did. I'm
You did a whole
sorry.
lot last
I
week.
thought
Last
I
week.
did.
You did. I'm just saying, but I'm saying,
Yeah,
if after you get into the chair position and you see that the little crab itis is coming up and things are happening and people are doing things crazy, we don't care if the person's a beloved child of the city or
right,
whatever else. We're gonna share names.
right.
Because the heart is you want to see better.
That's it. That's
Okay.
it. So yeah, so I'm gonna see what happens with that over the next week or so, and then see what happens when I start to try to schedule some meetings,
Hmm.
committee meetings to happen, and proposing some ideas. As they said, I have too many ideas. But the the next piece I kind of want to give an update on is the Wilmington fees and fines. I know a few months ago we probably talked about a little bit about what that is. So much going on with it, but some exciting news is that the grant that we received from the national program that we're a part of, who's looking at helping us to do the reform, we actually partnered with the Friendship House and we gave them about $8,000 to start a fund
Hmm.
for people who need assistance paying their parking tickets. So they can get up to $200 if you go contact the Friendship House. You got a boot on your car, or you're about to get a boot, or your car has been towed. It could be red light camera tickets, parking tickets that had accumulated to that $200 mark. You're able to contact the Friendship House. We have funding. We're looking to raise more money to put into the fund. So if there's anyone out there who needs help, like, it's out there, and this is one of the first funds focused on solely just parking and red light camera ticket payoff for right now. So I'm excited for it, but that's like really good news.
It is.
And we're waiting on the task force. So that was another issue I had with City Council, was that they voted for the task force, a fees and fines task force, to exist, but when it came to me appointing people, and I feel like I reached out to people, who do you want on the task force? We submitted it to the staff. When I asked for recommendations for who we can change, no one answered me. But when I got on the floor, the majority of them voted against the appointmentship for the task force. And I'm like, at this point, there's no argument about if the task force is going to be established. Y'all did that already in October, in November.
Yeah.
We voted yes to this. So now we get to the appointmentships, and everyone's acting like they don't know what's going on. But I'm bringing the legislation back up. I feel like I have the votes now to get the appointmentships at least passed, because I think it's important not to just look at parking, but to look at all fees and fines that people are impacted by in the city of Wilmington. We're really not looking at red light camera tickets. It's $110 per ticket. You get a fine or a fee every few days that you're late. And the minimum right now to give a boot is $200.
Mm.
You done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how do we look at those procedures and processes, and looking at just different avenues throughout the whole all departments on how fees and fines are impacting people? So I'm hoping that that passes sometime in the next few weeks, so that we're able to establish that. Um, and then the community response team. So that's kind of back on the policing thing, so I kind of should have kept it together. But I think it's important for Wilmington to have a community response team, and we'll have calls be non-emergency calls be directed to a team of people who are specialized and experts in like mental health issues, dealing with the homeless, unhoused population, dealing with people with drug and alcohol addiction, instead of having a police respond. Recently, I went to the Hope Center, and my question was, how do people get here? Like if they're homeless, and they said a lot of times police escort them, and they said a lot of times people are telling them they're scared to even interact with the police to get to the Hope Center, right? And the Hope Center is a remodeled hotel that's now like a shelter for people who are unhoused. So there's a lot of things that need to be fixed there, but really having a community response team. So I have reached out to a national partner. They're called LEAP. It's called Law Enforcement Action Partnership. So it's a group of law enforcement, retired, former, current, who believe in police reform. So they give assistance to establishing community response teams. So when I initially met them, I reached out to the administration. I'm like, hey, I want y'all to be at the table. They were like, no, we're not interested. So I kept pushing along, and they finally were able to give me a budget on to do the assessment, which was about $40,000. So I put it into the budget season, which we're about to enter. However, they called me and said, hey, we got a grant and we'll cover the whole amount.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Excellent.
So now at this point, I just got to get administration buy-in.
Oh, Lord.
That's all I got to do.
Oh, Lord.
And but I think it comes from the community putting pressure on that we want a community response team, that we want police reform, because there are issues, right, and things that we need to address, and we can make our city better. We can make our policing better. So like that's where I am now, and I'm like,
But can I just say this to you? You put that request in, come back and report on where it is.
that's what I'm gonna do.
Because at everything we're doing now, we just want to keep reporting back because I want people to start feeling it. I mean, if you know how many calls we got this week on that one issue we talked about, I think that people are paying attention and they want to know what their leaders are doing. Since everybody want to seem like they're the victim of being disrespected by the crew that's on the source, put it before them and let's make sure we stay honest. And what is their response?
Yeah.
And if there's no response, we're going to report that as well.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that the mayor administration is like, yes, let's do it.
But you're not going to kiss anybody's rings,
I'm not.
and you're not going to knuckle down. You're going to be the councilwoman that you are,
Yep.
and you're representing the people.
Yep. So that's all I want is just let's get the assessment done to
Yeah.
start this community
There you go.
response team.
There
And
you go.
then I know the last thing I talk about a lot too, outside of fees and fines and policing, is around housing. There is a community initiative now that is on its way of starting a tenants' rights union.
Mhm.
And I think this is so key and important to Wilmington because things like Adams Street,
Mhm.
and other things that we hear about that's going on in the city with renters, they'll have a network to communicate and find resources and to learn how to advocate for themselves. And I think that's so key and important. Like, I'm not a renter anymore, but I was a renter in Wilmington, and it's terrible out here.
Yeah.
High price. I know someone who pays $1,600 to live in the middle of the hood over West Side. The rent is crazy.
That's almost my mortgage.
Yeah, listen, my mortgage is less than that.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so many issues, and I just think it's important for people to know that this is underway. If you're interested, you can reach out to me, Facebook, City Council, give a call, and I can get you connected to the right people because they're looking for more renters to participate, and there should be a big conference happening probably May, June of this year to really get people engaged in that union. And I feel like our city as a whole, I think we're mostly anti-union. I get that feeling that people don't.
We used to
support
not
that.
be though. We used to be more union based.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were more union, but now we're
Yeah, I think
starting
people
to.
get scared of unions.
Yeah.
Like they hear that word union, it's like
Yeah.
scary. But we're hopefully we can change that narrative
Mhm.
and push for things like unions who provide support and resources to people. So
Good. You remember last week's comment I made to you? I said, "Don't get discouraged. There's going to be a shift. You're going to see the shift, and it's happening. It's happening, and we're going to do that. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back." And we're back. Well, Kobe, what's going on with the Kobe Corner?
Yeah, so I want to start off to talk about DEMRAC. we know the issues that DNRAC has had. We know the environmental issues, but they are taking a step in the right direction. They have appointed a new environmental control and environmental justice coordinator, Katara Moore, who has been a part of that office in the ombudsman program. But it will now be the new coordinator overseeing connecting the community, frontline communities to environmental injustices. Also coordinating resources better to make sure that the state's being more proactive in addressing issues. And then also looking at how they can go back and look at what's going on in the state, where, especially in areas that have huge cancer clusters, you're breathing in all these chemicals. Route 9 corridor is probably one of the most egregious injustices, environmental injustices, communities in the whole entire state, but you also still down in places like Evansdale, Delaware, which a lot of people don't even know is a place in
Never heard
Delaware,
of it.
has no drinking water, hasn't had any drinking water for years.
What's the name of
right?
the place again?
Evansdale.
Evansdale. You ever?
So there's places all like that throughout the state of Delaware. So I think the purpose of this is to make sure everyone ensure their human rights of clean air, clean drinking water, and a safe place to live.
Isn't that what your little sermon you was constantly preaching throughout the whole last year? That's the human rights that those three.
It is.
Yeah. So they appointed someone. That's great.
They finally did. So I look forward to seeing what she does in her work there, and look forward to working with her. And if they need to be pushed anymore, I will also be there to do that.
Amen.
Flipping the script, the General Assembly is still on break right now. For the most part, they're doing budget hearings right now with the JFC. So different departments have been going through, but a bill has been pre-filed. This is a bill that has been introduced multiple times. It's been introduced again by Representative Sean Lynn from Dover, the 31st District, to officially repeal the death penalty here in Delaware. And it's a flat-out repeal. The last state constituted death, right, was in 2012. It was a 28-year-old Shannon, I forget the last name right now, but they was put to death by lethal injection. This has been a fight that's been going on, and what the argument is right now, you have members of the General Assembly who believe they're fine with the repeal as long as it has a carve out if you kill a member of the police department, fire department, first responder. So that's what's been holding the bill out. Me personally, I believe it should be a flat out repeal.
Okay.
Across the board. I don't think the government should be killing anyone. You're really not habilitating anyone. I'm not saying they should get back out on the street, but I'm saying they should face life in prison so that they have to wake up every morning and think about what they did. But I have never been in favor of the death penalty.
Do you have a position on death penalty?
I think I have an issue more with the disparities that exist in it and fixing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I support it. I don't know. I'm kind of bet on it
But I
because
like
it's
how you opened it. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm for that addressing the disparities, but I'm also thinking like I don't know how I would feel if somebody took my daughter and killed her and then they just in jail getting free meals, sitting there.
Well, when your freedom is taken away, that's a hurt. One of the things that happened with this person, this demonically demented individual who killed all those folks up in New York, is that the woman said, "I hope every day you wake up and have to live with the torture of the voices that you killed." That happens a lot.
I think if you have issues, you can block it out. You ever blocked out a traumatic thing that happened to you
Well,
or
I've been
that you have done?
blessed. Well, I haven't
People
done nothing
can
bad.
block things out.
Yeah, I
Only
hear
for
you.
so long.
Only, yeah,
But again, you brought up it's unfair. It is unfair. It's unfairly applied, and it's unnecessary to protect society, right? It's racist. It's arbitrary, and it does not deter any violent crime,
Right.
right? It really doesn't. We've had the death penalty for how long, and murders are at an all-time high. It doesn't deter anything. We spend, as a country, we spend billions of dollars on this every year.
Mhm.
And as a state, Delaware and ourselves, we have on a higher rate, we have executed more people than states like California.
Mhm.
The one of the smallest states versus one of the largest states.
Well, I don't think it's really, for me, I never thought about it as deterring violence. I thought it was to appease the family, for whatever, like someone like a murderer, like to make the family feel more at ease, like
This person's dead.
this person is dead. I
Yeah.
thought more of that because I don't think it would curb violence at all. Like,
That was its purpose, right? And per capita,
Yeah.
Delaware is number 5 in the nation.
Yeah.
Number 5. And when it comes to those who are actually executed, we're number 3.
Jesus.
and I would never forget George Steiny. He was a 12, 13-year-old little boy, African American.
Mhm.
Back in like the 40s, he was executed and murdered by the government because they thought he killed a white girl.
But
Um,
how do you undo that mistake when you kill them? You don't. And that's one of the reasons.
oh yeah, they
Yeah,
can't
right,
do it.
right.
Yeah,
And
right.
also why one of the reasons why I've never been for the death penalty. I never nobody asked me. Y'all scared to ask me questions. But I never believed in it. My brother was killed. Two of my brothers were killed. And I had to sit in the courtroom through that whole trial, seeing that person. And I never will forget. Here in Delaware, there was a gentleman that was on the death penalty, and I really don't believe that he should have even been on there. But we went down and we fought hard, and they did repeal his situation. But I just never believed in it, and I'm the victim of having family members who was viciously killed.
Yeah.
But I just never believed in it. I believe it's going to torture you. It's going to torture you. I just, but you can, and you're right, but you can be crazy and loopy. But the reality of it is, it's going to, when your freedom is taken away from you, it's a different whole story.
Yeah, no, I'm not fighting against
Right.
it, but
No,
I'm
no,
not.
right. No, you didn't say you were fighting it.
Yeah.
I like how you opened it, because how you opened it is the disparity. And that's the problem.
But here's the thing, how this system works, they don't care about giving that comfort to families. They don't care about that.
Mhm.
Because if it was a white man who has high power attorneys and can afford that, guess what? Not only is he not going to get the death penalty,
Right.
he's going to get off with a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, that's what I said. The
And
disparities in
3 years.
Yes.
race and class, like all of that exists
Right.
in that process. So I
So
agree.
the system is deeply flawed,
Yeah.
right? And if you look at our numbers, we haven't used it since 2012, but in that time, right, from 1992, right before I was born, 3 years,
Mm.
to now, there's been 16 executions,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Delaware, we just hit 1 million. Our neighbor to the north, Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
in that same window, and they still use it. It's no hold on it right now up there. They've executed 3 people.
Mhm.
It is insane that this state that overfills our prisons
Mhm.
and overpopulates our prisons with black and brown people
Mhm.
on trumped up charges execute at a higher rate than Pennsylvania, than
That's the
California.
only reason I'm in support of repealing it. It's because of the disparities that exists.
And that's a bigger that slice is so big that you might as well just say I'm against having the death penalty, because the reality of it is that's the big issue. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No, that's all I had on that. The bill will be heard in committee pretty soon. The date hasn't been set just yet, but it'll probably be within the first 2 weeks in March. So I will definitely be keeping everyone up to date on that. My next point is the Wilmington property reassessment.
Mhm.
They're doing a reassessment all across the county,
Mhm.
and it's finally hitting the city of Wilmington. So, Tyler Technologies was the firm that's been hired to do this reassessment, and I think it's a little over 200,000 properties throughout, or parcels throughout Newcastle County that they're assessing, right? And this is all based off of a Chancery Court ruling from 2020. The city, the county, the state had all been in litigation for a long time. But all this has to be done and in effect by 2025, right? So what does this mean for us? So based on our reassessments, our property taxes may go up, they may go down. But this is the first time in decades that we've had a mass reassessment of the properties.
Mhm.
Now, in Wilmington, they're starting with the Charlie Square area, 40 acres, Highlands area, and then they're going to be moving throughout the city. Coming, I think they go to like the Brandywine Hill Triangle area next. Then they hit like my area, East Lawn, 11th Street Bridge, Northeast Boulevard, like that area next. So they're looping around, right? Um, the issue is Tyler Solutions only requires a 2-hour bias training.
Mm.
So we know with assessments already that we've been discriminated against.
Mhm.
So only requiring a 2-hour assessment training for their assessors is not a good practice.
Mm.
Um, so that's just where we're at with that. As we get more information, as they start the process here, it's starting on Monday. But as that process goes forward, we're going to be looking at seeing what their reports are, the preliminary reports, and some of their drafts as they go through it.
So what you are basically saying without saying, and you correct me,
Mhm.
is that because of their limited amount of bias training, a lot of their bias is going to be weighing into their professional opinion of the assessment of the properties
Correct.
in the poor neighborhoods.
Mhm.
That's what he's saying without saying it. So I can
You
say,
need to be careful too and watch some of the legislation coming through
yes.
because the Riverfront Development Corporation had a legislation last session where they were trying to get out of, and I think they were trying to avoid this assessment piece where they were trying to get out of being taxed or something. What was it?
Yes, Newcastle
So,
County. Go ahead.
all right. So, the Riverfront Development, which is like a quasi-government
Yeah.
working group, right?
Right.
That is supposed to revitalize the downtown riverfront area.
Hmm.
They currently do not pay taxes. They
Yeah.
don't pay
Right.
school taxes.
Yeah.
Each individual mayor's administration can make that decision if they're going to tax them or not.
Mhm.
Right.
The current administrations have not,
Quite natural.
but they know there's people who do want to tax them in the work that they do.
Mhm.
That money will go back into our school districts, Christiana, Votech, and I believe it was what's the one over here?
Brandywine.
No, not Brandywine. Brandywine,
Um,
Colonial.
Colonial. Mhm.
So they decided that they were going to pass a bill, tried to pass a bill
They tried.
to codify that into state law that they will no longer be taxed for school
Never.
tax.
Mm.
That bill was killed.
Thank the
It
Lord.
had passed the Senate, 21 votes
To agree.
to agree.
Oh, I would like to know who those 21
It
were.
came over to the House,
Uh-huh.
and because we looped it all in with eminent domain, and the bundling bill, we killed all three of them at the same time.
Good.
And I'm not in favor of the death penalty for people, but for bills like that, gotta go. So that's kind of what happened with that bill.
Yeah.
Gotta be
there.
careful. They might try to bring
Mhm.
it back, so we have to watch. And I'm watching.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's interesting because I was talking with someone the other day and I didn't know that the Riverfront does not pay any taxes, but they charge you big fees to use any of their facilities down there.
Yeah.
Tugman Garrett Park.
Huh?
Tugman Garrett Park.
Unbelievable.
Tugman
And how
Garrett
they
Park
treat
that
the,
was given to
and how
them.
they treat the homeless, unhoused population down there is like
Yeah.
sad.
Well, it's just interesting. We don't have enough more time, so I want to go ahead and let you go ahead and finish.
All right. So my last point,
Oh, you close your laptop.
I'm gonna get real for a second.
Oh, okay.
The state police decided that they were gonna abuse, assault, and harass 3 teenagers
Mhm.
at Main Event. There was a 13-year-old who, it was after a certain time point. You have to be in there with an adult. Then I have an adult was asked to leave. Calls his peoples. They say we're gonna be a little while. He goes and sits down in front of the Best Buy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the cops approach them and say, "Oh, you're trespassing now." He's not doing nothing. He's just sitting there. 13-year-old, just sitting there. This causes him to get scared and he runs. They chase him. They tackle him to the ground. They're on top of him. 2 teenage girls who understand what's happening in America right now, over and over and over again, decide that they're going to film what's happening. They go up, they have their phones out, they're filming. They even ask for the officer's badge number. They tell him, "Hey, you're much bigger than this kid. Be careful. He's small. Be careful." all this other stuff. Officers don't like this. These girls are standing car lengths away. They go up and grab the girls.
Oh, wow.
15-year-olds.
Where's IMAC?
They're coming out.
Are they coming out about this?
They go up
Oh.
and grab the girls.
I would like to be there for that. Go ahead.
They throw one girl on the ground,
Uh-huh.
push her head to the ground, put his knee on the back of her neck.
No.
You go back to the 13-year-old on the ground. He's now turned onto his stomach. The officer's knees on his stomach. And then another girl gets slammed down and has a concussion.
Are you serious?
These are grown men
I didn't hear anything about
who
this.
have badges
Attacking kids.
and have guns, attacking kids, but yet it's justified because Representative Nnamdi Chukwuka decided that in 2020 he was going to do a chokehold bill, but put a provision in it that said that if they deem it necessary, they can use that type of force, restrictive force of an airway.
Unacceptable.
That's your representative.
Unbelievable.
This is what we're dealing with right here in Delaware, and we have videos that we can show y'all.
Oh, wow.
These kids are traumatized. And then on top of all of that, they're being charged with disorderly conduct for resisting arrest. I'm sorry, if I got a knee on my neck, I'm going to resist too.
Absolutely. Or die.
Or die.
Yeah. Wow.
We just saw what happened with Tyree. We saw what happened all across this state. We see what happened all across this nation.
Yeah.
But yet we still have legislators who are scared to do anything.
Unbelievable.
Who's scared to do anything. These are kids. So Frank, this is on you. Nnamdi, this is on you.
And that's two black politicians.
Two black men.
Yeah. Who should understand this struggle.
Two black men who are upholding this system that is systematically attacking, brutalizing, and traumatizing our community.
For those of you who just tuned in, let me just recapitulate what our brother just shared. And if I make any mistakes, please correct me. Number one, you had a rule at the what you call that place?
General
the events place.
Main event.
Main events that at a certain time you have to be accompanied by an adult. They told the young man to leave. The young man left and sat in front of the Best Buy, I guess waiting for his parents or whoever. He left, he did what he was told to do. They then go to where he was, and then they start harassing him, and then they end up somewhat putting his knee on him and things of that nature, roughing him up. Two girls decided they wanted to record it because they know what's going on. The cops are always right, because we got certain legislators who will not do anything to get these cops under control, certain ones under control. And then they get roughed up. And when I sit here, I was trying, Kobe doesn't get too emotional too often. But when you're dealing with this type of stuff, and when you talk about we don't like certain politicians, we don't like police officers, we love politicians, we love police officers. But when you sit in a position of power and you continue to act like it doesn't matter what happens to the community because you're no longer a part of the community. Let me calm down. Because you're no longer a part of the community. I got to be careful. I'm begging you to hear I didn't even know anything about this. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I didn't hear anything about this, but to hear this now, it angers me.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we say? What is our response? Now you said so. NAACP, I'm sure, is on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you said IMAC is going to be a part of
They're going
this.
to do a press conference, or they're going to do something about it?
We're meeting with the family to talk about next steps, how they want to deal with it with their attorneys. So not all families want to be public with it, but from the conversations I had individually with each family, they do want to do public demonstrations.
This is unbelievable. These were white children, right?
No, these were black children.
Okay, I just want to make sure I say
No,
those
they
things.
was black.
Well, I got to say it
We
because you
can
never
show the
know.
video. You want to show the video? It's trigger warning, which caution warning. One of those warnings. It's a very traumatic video to watch. You hear a young
I stopped watching.
13-year-old
Okay.
screaming out for his mother.
So that we will have enough time, and I do want to do this, let me just take this moment and let us look at this real quickly.
Yes.
Where's he at?
Green. In there.
If you need to stop acting like this,
Okay. Bro, I'm going home.
you're not going. You're coming with
I'm
me.
going home. No, I'm going home.
You don't gotta lay on him like that.
Ow, it hurt. My arm.
You're on his arm. Come on.
Ow. Ah. No.
You already right, then we're just gonna sit here.
I'm going home.
Stop, my man.
My brother.
Stop.
My brother.
Hurry up.
My brother.
Stop. 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 Stop.
Bro, can you get on my arm? I walk.
Stop.
He's saying
You can leave. You're going to go to jail if you keep going, all right? You have no clue what's going on here.
Okay, but he's 13.
I understand. If you don't know him, you can leave.
It doesn't matter. You're on top of him. You're hurting him.
You have 5 seconds to leave or you will be in
He's
jail.
hurting him. He's talking about he's gonna arrest us now. He's talking about he's gonna arrest us because we're trying to watch and make sure he's fine.
Don't do that to me.
Do it then.
We're going to walk to my car.
Oh, mama.
My friends went in there to go get his older brother. My friends went in there to go get his older brother. He's chasing him and all that. He told he gonna arrest us. Yeah.
Come on. See, you're going down.
He can't arrest us. Like, what are you doing? Who is?
I'm a kid.
He's 13.
Get out of here.
I'm a
You're not
kid.
involved with this.
It doesn't.
Let's go. Come on.
No.
Stop.
They said his mom and his brother in there. That's all he said.
Can you get your knee up off of him? No. Your knee up off of him.
You like time just wait. Come on now.
Oh my God.
What are you doing?
Get your knee off of him.
Come on, get up.
No.
Come on.
No.
But you're gonna keep getting recorded.
I'm sorry. Mama.
Send us to jail.
No, my God.
They went in there to look.
Get off of me.
I'm not going to let you go. You keep running away.
I'm not gonna run. Yo.
And then, right in front of the main event, but like halfway down.
Get
Come
Get
on.
off.
Come into my car.
Get off. I don't wanna go to
Just get up. Just get up. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We're right here. We're watching. Nothing's gonna happen to you.
We're going to walk.
Nothing's gonna happen to you. Just get up.
They're going to walk with us. Come
my
on.
brother.
Stand up.
No.
Come on. Come on.
No.
Stand up.
Leave me alone.
Come on.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Come on. Stop, dude.
Leave me alone.
Stop.
I never finished.
I'm not taking you to jail.
Oh, my brother, bro.
You have your phone?
Yo, my brother in there.
We're going to get him, but I'm not going to let you keep running around the parking
I'm not
lot.
gonna run. I just want my brother.
We're gonna
I
walk
want my
to
brother.
car. Come on. Come on. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. All right.
I don't want to do it. I don't want
Can you just walk with me so
I
we
want
don't
my
have to do
brother.
this?
Give me my brother out. You take me
We're
home.
going to get him, but
Boy,
can
you
you stop
have
doing
to
this?
stop before you get hurt. You
Can you
have to
walk with
listen.
me?
You have to listen, baby boy. I don't know what's going on, but you have to listen.
Can you walk with me so we don't have to do
Oh,
this?
my brother.
Just get up. It's okay. We're right here.
Stand up.
I
Stand up.
want to kill my.
Stand up. Walk with
I
me.
fucking hate them.
Come on.
I know.
Make the right decision. Don't get hurt.
I want my brother.
He said his brother is in there with I know. We just got out the car. Why you dragging him away? Why he dragging him away like that? Oh, get off him! Oh my God!
You come here now. I gave you a warning.
Hold up! Wait!
Cause I didn't even fucking
Okay.
Okay.
We were trying to make sure he's okay. What are you doing? First of all,
Back off!
Let me go.
Back up!
we weren't even doing anything.
Come on, right? No, hold up. Let me go. Let me go. What's that?
We weren't even doing anything. Oh my God! Get off her! What are you doing? What are you doing? Don't touch me!
Back up.
Get off her! Get her phone! Get her phone! Get her phone! Stop touching me! Stop touching me! Are you done? I'm backed up! Shut the fuck up! okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It's right there. My shoes. Can I get my shoes? I want my shoes.
Back
I
up.
don't give a fuck about none of that. Bitch, don't touch me.
You're gonna get
I don't
arrested.
give a fuck.
I'm not
Like I
playing with you.
said. Fucking kick me, bitch. What are you talking about?
Back
Get out
up.
my face.
Please tell you
Fuck
back
is
up,
wrong
back
with
up,
y'all?
back
He
up.
kicked me.
Okay,
Fucking
back up.
bullshit. Get the fucking money, you dickhead.
The fuck? We trying to help a little boy. You gonna sit there and arrest her? Throw him on the ground like you're dumb.
Fuck your mama, you bitch face.
What the fuck?
This is badge number, bitch. I'm not playing.
Yeah. Let us get all them badge numbers right now. Are you dumb? Get all them badge numbers. Give us your badge numbers right now. Badge numbers. Badge numbers. Badge numbers. Give us your badge numbers. Badge numbers.
Out of my face.
Badge
Out of my
numbers.
face. Back
Badge
up.
numbers.
Back up.
Badge numbers. And you will be getting reported. Are you dumb?
You're being recorded. Back up.
Good. We don't give a fuck. Are you fucking dumb? You arrested her for no
Leave or
reason.
you're gonna get arrested. Leave or you're gonna get arrested. Leave or you're
Give
gonna
us your badge numbers.
I'm gonna arrest you. Leave or you're gonna get arrested. Leave or you're gonna
You got
get
just
arrested.
phone?
Mike, I got her phone.
Dickhead, fuck all
Give
you.
us your badge numbers. Give us your badge numbers. Give us your badge numbers.
Now.
Fuck you, do your job right,
Leave.
bitch. I hope
I'm
you
gonna
die.
arrest you.
Okay, badge numbers. Badge numbers. What the fuck? Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
You walking me?
No. Back up. Back up.
Give us your badge numbers.
I told her how many times? I told her how many
Get
times?
off the badge.
I'm security. Just listen. Come on. She okay? Baby, calm down, please. I'm security. I can't do too much, but I need y'all to stay calm. Please, stay calm. Or it's not. They would do the same thing to y'all. Y'all don't like that. Okay? Calm down.
I want badge numbers. I want badge numbers, bro.
Calm down. Just
Give
stay
us
calm.
some. She's already.
I don't know. I'm security.
This
I
is
work
our
here.
friend. He wanted to do a little bit on the ground. And we have to go
Why do
fight
they have 2 men on her? Like, what the fuck?
She was fighting. She was fighting.
She was not fighting.
She not no threat to
The
nobody.
little boy. Because he got thrown in the ground.
Right up.
We want your badge numbers.
She not no threat to nobody out here.
Badge numbers. We want badge numbers. I want badge numbers. I don't care.
Calm down. Y'all gotta stay calm. Wipe your face, mama.
She
You
not
about
no
to make me
threat.
cry. Come on now.
She not no threat to nobody out
Ain't
here.
nobody no
Because
threat.
he
Just
just
stay
came
over
here.
here
He
and
don't
calm
know
down.
where to ground. We try to help him. Now we can
Let her go.
We're gonna let her go. Just calm down. Damn, nobody say
I want badge numbers. I don't give a fuck. Give us your badge numbers. The fuck? You sitting there like white pieces of fucking shit. Fucking crackers.
And we're back. I hope you had an opportunity to see that video. It's heartbreaking. Today we honor and celebrate a woman who have done a phenomenal job with fighting against the very thing you just witnessed. Bishop Morton has always been a legend in our community, a hero in our community. She was the first in many areas. There are many who can sit back and say because of a Bishop Aretha Morton, they were able to survive. When the city didn't know what to do with the violence at that time, she would, along with a few others, would just go and would try to calm and bring peace to all the situations. I know now, as we are celebrating her life today, at St. Paul's at 3 o'clock, there will be a musical in her honor. She will lie in state all from, I think, from 10 o'clock this morning. She was lying in state until, I guess it was around 2. And then it was took over to St. Paul's. And then on tomorrow, we will have the official homegoing celebration of her. But I say all of that to say that Bishop Morton should never be forgotten. The very things that upset us today on the show is what continued to upset her. As she got more seasoned in her years, she calmed down and was able to just do more talking and show up and let her presence speak for her. But somebody has to pick up the mantle and they have to move this fight forward. We shouldn't have city council people fighting another young black sister who really have the energy to help move this city forward because they may get a chicken dinner in their budget for somebody else. We have to come together and be like the old preachers the old people, and when I say old, I mean people who from time past, who were there for the community, who didn't buy and sell out their community. I've never seen Kobe to this level of emotion. And then to mention the people he mentioned, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. But let's honor Bishop today. And I thank God for her. All of us here at The Source want to say to the Tabernacle family, we are continuously praying for you. We want to say to the Morton family, we're praying for your strength during this time of transition. And also to Sister Janesta Ray, who was really that sidekick to Bishop Morton. We're praying that you continue to be strengthened. I close the show today like that. And if there's anything any of you want to do, say, we're good, you're good.
I'm good.
Until the next time, God bless.
Take care, y'all.
Talk to y'all soon.